for a couple of days after that. So it was a Friday when he made this appointment, and so he went there. He met again with Elba Toledo. Elba Toledo was the person that was on the entrance, and he waited a little bit again till the previous customer went off, and because he was a little bit earlier anyway. So he got in, and with a big smile, I said, "Oh, it's nice to see you again, Sarah." And he made Felicia to give him a smile back. And then he said, then she said, "Well, here, I was told that you wanted to read your fortune on the cards." And I said, "Yeah, that's what I came from. I wonder if you can see something different than last time." So they started making the card reading, etc. So something very similar came out as the last time. And he said, "Well, I guess my future it's pretty much set up, but I will be glad to have a cup of coffee with you and talk if you don't mind." By this time, Felicia was a little curious about this guy, and she found him a little bit handsome, and he was. Joe was a very tall man, 185, slim, not very strong looking, but not also too slim. So, and she wasn't dating anyone at this time because she believed that having a partner at this early age won't make any sense. And she had more like a free spirit life. But it was getting a little bit late, and she didn't have any plans, so she said, "Yes, okay, I'll see you. There's a cafe nearby. I can see you there in a couple of hours if you want." So they agreed on that, and they decided to meet each other there. So John's intentions were more becoming a friend of her, and trying to get as much information as he could about this environment that she was in. So after the first meeting, he took notes of everything he found interesting about her and the place, but the file is still pretty much empty anyway. So he needed more. He really needed more information, and he was thinking that he was failing into this mission because of that. Now, he didn't have too much to do, so he decided to go a little bit to the castle, just to give a small feedback, fill the documents before he had the next date with Felicia in the cafe. So he was in a little bit hurry. He knew he didn't have much time before the last hour of the evening. So he rushed to the castle and enter like regular, say hello to everyone in there, and go directly to the computer, open the files, and start typing the new information that he had. Finishing that, he saw around and say, "Oh, hello, I'm sorry I didn't have too much information yet, but I think I'm in a good path." And Brian said, "Oh, don't worry, these things take time. We know how this is, so just keep going and see if how long can you keep this thing going, and if everything breaks, don't worry, it's okay. We can try something different next time." So they went to this cafe that was besides a cathedral, was very close to the place that Felicia had, and there was this big church, and the cafe was just one side of it. So the place was pretty nice. It looks a little bit creepy, like dark and couchy, but with this environment that pretending to be magical or stuff. Judd got there first. She didn't see Felicia there, so he decided to take a table and a coffee. He was thinking that maybe she won't come, but and then the whole mission will fail. So 15 minutes after the meeting time that they agree, he was getting a bit nervous about this, but then she showed up at the door, and he kind of get a little bit more relaxed about it, and just breathe more calmly, because he knew now at least he will have a little bit more of time with her. So she enters, she sees him, and walk right to where he was. And then she said, well, sorry for being late. I had a customer that wanted to keep chatting, and I forgot about the time, and then I realized it was late and I rushed into here. I said, oh, don't worry about it. I understand you have your job, and it's okay. And then, do you want something to drink? So she, what are you drinking? He was taking a coffee, so she ordered a cup of coffee too, and then she asked if she wanted to have a piece of cake or something, and they decided to take one small piece of chocolate cake for each other. So they were talking about, and what Joe was trying to figure out is Show's very interested in this paranormal stuff, so he started making questions about, where did you learn all these, etc., and trying to get as much as he can. Felicia noticed he was really interested into it, and thought, you know what, and start talking about how this old lady told her most of what she did about talismans and what they do, etc. And then everything seems to be going fine, and Felicia finds that, well, this guy is not that boring as he looks before. He is kind of interesting. Now, of course, just make lie about him and told him he was working at this factory as a administration something. Not really a big deal, because at the end he was young, of course, so he tried to make a cover that was pretty much believable. So the conversation was going pretty well, and then somehow Judd asked if they are about this cafe that they were in, and she told him, well, this is kind of a magic spot, because it's close to the church, and the energies that are around the church are very interesting, because they keep floating around it, so that's why this place is here. And then he asked, well, are there other places like that, or it's just this spot, or how does this work? And she said, well, pretty close by the city, and outside there is this cave. It's called the Cave of the Gnomes, and it's pretty magical in every sense. People say there are little creatures living there, so you can throw some coins and ask for wishes, and your fortune will get better. And he said, well, it sounds nice. Can we have a date and go there next week? And she said yes. She was interested in him after all, and so they agree on a date. It will be next weekend. around 11 a.m. so they can go there and have a small picnic, then go into the cave. So the next week came and they went into this cave. It was they need to climb a little bit. First they need to go outside of town. It's a 1 hour trip to this spot. And so at the end they arrived there. It was this regular mountainside with kind of a forest. So they park and they had to walk like 40 minutes to the spot. At the end they got there, they had their picnic, they talk a lot and about this kind of places and stuff. So Felicia told him about other places that have very similar vibes and that this kind of things happen in nature normally and they're not that weird. So they decided to enter this cave. It was pretty much a very big entrance to the cave, and so the light was very well illuminated by the sunlight. Remember, it was pretty much midday, but this time it was around 2 p.m. So after midday, so it was pretty well illuminated. So they went inside and they grabbed some coins and they just throw them inside and asking for a better luck. So they keep talking about life in general and stuff, and then they decided it was time to go back. By this time it was around 4 or 5 p.m. So Judd asked her if he could leave her at home, and she said, "Oh, yes, of course, that would be nice." So he drove her home, and they had a long conversation afterwards outside her home. She lived alone in a small apartment, but on the second floor of this building. So they spent a little bit of time outside, but by now it was like 7 p.m. so it was getting dark, but not that late. So they kept talking like until 9 p.m. until she decided, you know, it's time for me to go. And he said, "Oh, okay, no problem." And so they say goodbye. And not before Judd asked for her personal phone because he didn't have it at this time. He only had the phone of the business, of the small divination and shop she had. So she gave him her phone and said, "Well, I will call you and let's see if we can see us back again next week or someday." She said, "Okay, I'll wait for that." So after that, next day, he just sent a message to say hello and Sarah. So they keep messaging for that week until the next weekend came. And so Judd asked her, "Well, do you know any other spot that we can visit like last time?" She said, "Yes, there's very a little bit more far away of the place we went before is this place called the Magic Forest. So it's a beautiful spot. The environment feels pretty magical, and what is deeper than where we were last time. So it's going to take us a little bit longer to get there. So we must go pretty early in the morning, if you don't mind." He said, "Well, sounds very interesting. Let's do that." So one day after they meet, he went back to the castle and just typed all the information he figured out that last time they met. Now they met again very early in the morning, around, well, not that early, it's around 6 a.m. and they start driving to this spot in the forest. So there was like a parking lot, because this was not like a secret place or stuff. It was a pretty well known spot. but you have to have a very long walk to get to the nicest areas of the forest. We were uh, told that we're enchanted. So they leave the car and they start walking. So while they were walking, they were talking about a lot of stuff. At this time, Judd was a little bit nervous and thinking that he may say something he shouldn't. But they kept the conversation, and he tried to keep as much as he could of his facade and not revealing too much about him. So this time the conversation was pretty much about their families, and so Felicia was told him, well, my family is this and that, we come from this and that, and we always have this pagan religion stuff in our family. So I learned this from my mother, as well as this old lady who taught me a little bit more about this lady was like the guide, or like kind of a priest for this pagan religion. So her mother, even if she was a practitioner, she wasn't in the level of priest of this stuff, and she wanted to become like a master of this. So she decided to go to this lady and learn more about it. So also, Joe told her about his family and where they were from, etc., trying to keep the most of his personal stuff out, and creating things from just to keep his real self away from her to know, as much as he could as a secret. So they arrive at the end to this magic forest, and the feeling was pretty nice. He realized, and Felicia told her, well, I used to come here from time to time with my family and spend some time here. So they decided to have again the small picnic there, and just taking the side Sarah. And small noises of birds were here, cracks and stuff from the wind, or small animals were here, and she told her, well, they're probably forest creatures. Well, talking about bunnies and stuff like that. Joe asked, saying, no, I'm talking about magic critters. There are, of course, animals here, but there are also magic critters that are taking care of the forest and not letting people damage it. So people, this area is considered special, and that's why it is preserved by the government, and also because it's beautiful. So they were talking about, and so he asked him about these creatures and how they do, or what they were, etc. So she started talking about fairies and gnomes and stuff that were very common in the forest, and the magical, and all these myths of stuff that came from the pagan's religion. So everything ended well, and they took the way back. They were talking a lot when they were walking, and also in the road back to the city. This time they kissed goodbye. So Judd was feeling that he was starting to developing some feelings for this girl, and he wasn't sure if this was a good thing or not, but he kind of forgot what he was doing and just let himself go with the flow. So the same thing happened during the week. They keep contact.